Hey, what's up guys? Rago here from Kite. So I've been thinking about trying some new things on our channel, and for the longest time I've wanted to do a progressive unhooked freestyle playlist. And I know it's not the most popular thing in kiteboarding right now. A lot of people out there see these really advanced riders and they think that unhooked riding is, only for people who are really advanced kiteboarders. And I wanted to do a playlist that kind of gives you a starting point. And we've had some requests for it. And I finally got around to going to Brazil and filming some of the shots needed to get this going. And the idea is to take the most basic fundamental tricks and work our way every other week all the way up to some of the more advanced tricks. And even once I surpass my own abilities, linking up with our newest team rider, Chris Bobrick, and covering some of the more advanced tricks that maybe don't get as many views on YouTube, but some of you out there want to know. But just to start, we're going to start with the fundamentals. So this whole playlist will be all the fundamental tricks that you need to work on and master before moving on to the more advanced moves. So the thing about unhooked riding is, while it might seem really advanced, really all of these tricks are just a combination of basic tricks, whether it's a roll, a rotation, how you land, a grab, or the axis of your rotation or roll. So the aim of this playlist is to break down all the fundamental movements that you're going to need to learn in kiteboarding to move on to these more advanced tricks. So to kick things off, we're going to start with the most fundamental move in kiteboarding, the pop. So you can think of the pop as your foundation for all of your kiteboarding tricks, whether you're hooked in or unhooked. All kiteboarding tricks, they start with a pop. So whether you want to progress into air tricks, the park, or just add some variation to your riding, you're going to want to get this one right. And something that I've learned recently is there's three variations of the pop. There's the ollie, there's the light wind pop, and there's the high wind pop. So we've got a lot to cover. Let's get to it. So like all of our videos, don't forget to click the eye icon in the upper right hand corner, and we'll include a free PDF for your phone, take it to the beach, and give us a review before your next session. This will also take you to an in-depth blog breaking down the trick in more detail with additional tips and tricks. So let's start with the prerequisites, and as this is a beginner-oriented trick, there's really only three. Riding upwind, relaunching your kite, and I think send jumps are going to help a lot with this one. There's a lot of similarities, and having that kite awareness and understanding how to load your lines is going to go a long way in figuring this one out. For this video, we're going to talk about some drills that you can practice to improve your pop. So the first drill that I want to talk to you about is the ollie. And something that happens with kiteboarders is a lot of time we'll progress into certain tricks and we'll leave some of the basics behind that are really important that start holding us back later. I know for myself, when I first started trying tricks like the back to blind, some of my bad habits from my early days started to catch up with me and hold me back on my progression. So with this drill, you're going to be learning four things. First and foremost is body awareness when you're popping in the air. Second, you're going to start to learn how to feel that line tension. Third, you're going to learn how to keep the control bar close to you. And then lastly, and maybe most important, is you're going to learn how to land downwind riding at the kite to take the power out of the kite. So let's dive into it. To do an ollie, keep your kite at about 45 degrees, right around 1 or 11 o'clock. Bear downwind to unhook. This is going to take the tension out of your lines so you can unhook. And something you can do to give yourself a little more control is to split the lines with your fingers so you have a little bit of pressure on the front hand side of the bar. This will keep you from sending the kite too high or too low. It's going to give you more control over both sides of your bar, whether it's your front hand or your back hand, and that's going to help you keep the kite in one place while you're ollieing. So with your kite at 45, you're going to want to let off your edge to take some of the tension out of your lines and unhook. You can start digging your edge back in and riding almost upwind, kind of across to the wind to start putting tension in your lines, and then it kind of helps to find like a piece of chop or something to pop off of. So ride up towards that piece of chop, and you should start leaning back a little bit and feeling that tension load into your lines. As you ride up at it, keep the bar close, somewhere between your chest and your hips, almost like you never unhooked. You're going to want to maintain a slight bend in your elbows so the bar doesn't get away from you. You want to get in the habit of keeping the bar close to your body, somewhere between your chest and your hips, almost like you never unhooked. As you ride up the chop, stomp down on your back leg. At the same time, Bring your front leg up. As you leave the chop, bring your back leg into your chest right after. So ride up towards that piece of chop, and you should start leaning back a little bit and feeling that tension load into your lines. You should feel a transfer of energy from the control bar into your board as you pop off the chop. So remember to keep the bar close to your hips and keep your knees bent slightly. If the kite is pulling away from you, try to pop more downwind. Now this is a great drill for learning how to control the power of your kite as well, so you really want to focus on staying with the bar. And one of the best things you can do for yourself is learning to keep that bar close to your hips, close to your body. As you come down, land flat and downwind. Keep your knees over your shoulders and bend them as necessary to absorb the impact. So this drill should give you a solid foundation with the unhooked principles. You're going to be learning a few things. How to control the kite unhooked with one hand, body awareness while unhooked, how to stay with the control bar, and how to land properly for more power tricks. So the whole point of this drill is just to build the basic skills needed, and it's going to be a great way to improve confidence with unhooked riding. Eventually, it's going to be very useful if you hope to ollie into kite park features. One of the biggest mistakes that kiteboarders make when trying new tricks is letting the bar get away from them, and it's really easy to do, and once you do this, everything becomes almost impossible. And almost every trick in freestyle kiteboarding does require that bar to be close, especially for the landings. And there are a handful like stretched out rallies or S-bends where you're going to get the bar up here like this. And we'll cover more into getting the bar back here later for landings. But right now, the best thing you can do for yourself is learning to keep the bar close, just like you're hooked in. Now on top of that, you really want to establish the habit of learning how to control your landings. So almost equally as important as keeping that bar close to your lead hip is learning how to land flat and downwind riding at the kite. And this is going to be huge when you start learning how to land blind and building that confidence for just having controlled landings, which can be a little bit intimidating when you're unhooked from the kite. So the best thing you can do for yourself is learn how to ride at the kite after the trick. So what you can do is just practice this a ton. Start ollieing off every piece of chop that you see and learn how to keep the bar close and land riding downwind. So once you're comfortable with the ollie, the next drill I recommend working on is learning how to load your lines and body position while loading. So what you can do for this step is almost like a small half rally, and you don't have to commit to the full stretched out rally or anything like that, but the idea here is just to start loading and popping the kite and progressively getting more and more air with the kite that you're comfortable with. So in this step, you're going to learn how to load your lines, and this is the same as step one, except now you're going to lean back more to engage your lines a little. So the idea here is to start loading pressure into the lines before you pop. And like I mentioned, popping with the kite low or unhooked, it's different than a send jump. What you're going to be doing here is learning how to put tension into your lines through the edging and your board speed. So with your kite at 11 or 1 o'clock, you're going to want to ride downwind to take the tension out of your lines and unhook, and then re-engage that edge. And as you sit back, you want to keep your hips locked and roll your shoulders back like you're sitting with good posture. It should be almost like you're sitting in a chair. And this is where your body position is going to be really important. So you want to stay locked at the hips, you don't want to bend at the hips, and you don't want to let the bar too far out either. You want to get in the habit of keeping the bar close to your body, somewhere between your chest and your hips, almost like you never unhooked. So your body should be working as a unit. If you bend like a hinge at your hips, you're going to choke out the power and energy that you built up. And likewise, if you let off your edge, you're going to slip off the water. So the more tension you create, the harder you lean back. The faster you go, it's going to impact how powerful your pop is. Now start paying attention to the pressure that you feel in your bar as you load up the lines. So you're really going to be doing 3 things at the same time here. As you feel the pressure load up in your lines, you'll want to carve away from the kite like you're going upwind, stomp down your back heel, and then gently throw your legs out behind you, almost like you're going for a rally, but don't feel like you have to commit to a full rally right now. So now is a good time to start working on habits in the air. One bad habit is people tend to send their kite up for a little extra pop. So avoid that and try to keep the kite, closer to 11. And once you're in the air, you can even pull on your front hand to dive the kite back down. And what this is going to do is going to pull you more forward rather than up. And if you send the kite up, you're just going to end up dangling, or the bar's probably going to come out of your hands. So just get used to doing small pops and staying with the kite getting pulled forward and becoming aware of that line tension. So the main point of this drill right now is to become aware of that line tension as it loads and feeling that little extra pull when you pull on your front hand. that pulls you forward. And just like before with the ollie, now is the time to focus on your landing. So as you feel yourself coming down, try to bring your knee into your chest and pull the bar back down towards your lead hip. And just like the first step, you really want to land flat and riding downwind. And it's really important just to practice this step so you get comfortable with solid landings. So this drill is going to help you develop the muscle memory needed to progress into every other unhooked trick. The only factor that changes from trick to trick is how much power you bring and how you release your edge. And we're going to break those down in individual videos. So the faster you go, the harder you edge, and the more you scoop, the higher your body and legs will go. So we're going to cover the scoop in the next drill. So make sure you spend enough time on this drill, loading more and more tension into those lines, getting a stronger release, going faster, and just experiment until you're really comfortable popping higher and harder. So let's talk about the scoop. So unhooked riding it's similar to cable wakeboarding in that you're going to be using a progressive edge to build line tension. So with this step, you're going to be working on loading more power into the lines and scooping the board. So imagine digging your edge so hard that you create a ramp in the water. As you edge away, your board's going to be sitting deeper in the water. Now, unlike the ollie, your nose is going to be facing away from the kite. So as you dig your edge in and push your back leg off the water, the kite's going to pull you forward and your board is going to scoop away. So as the board leaves the water, you want to point your toes and throw your legs behind you. This is going to be similar to a rally, but the kite's higher and you're not going to be super powered. So don't try to get your legs above your head or anything like that. Just like before, it's all about establishing good habits. So remember to keep the bar close, and as you come down, pull it towards your lead hip, land flat, riding towards the kite. And what you're going to notice when you land flat is you're going to feel the kite lose some power as you ride the momentum out with your board speed. You can hook back in, lean back, and start riding upwind like normal. So the point of this drill, it's just to build your understanding of how to load the kite, how to scoop the board, and how to control your landings. So the idea here is to be present for all these steps. You should feel the line tension load in your lines. You want to feel the energy transfer from the control bar through your body into the board. You want to be aware of the water as you lean back and almost create a ramp in the water to scoop out of. So let's talk about some different variations. I mentioned that there's a light wind pop and a pop that you can do in high winds, and there's just some other tips and tricks that you can think about. So something you can practice with, especially in lighter wind, is something we call flicking the kite. And what you do is when you go to unhook and you start loading your lines, as you release the edge, you'll feel that energy transfer. You can just pull back a little bit on your backhand, send the kite up just a little bit, and as you release, you immediately send the kite back down by pulling on your front hand. And this might not be the most favored practice, but you'll notice in a lot of videos that a lot of riders are doing this, and it really does help get that extra air that you might need. So just start experimenting. As you're loading the lines, as you go to release and scoop, just flick the kite back up and pull it back down to pull you forward. And back to the light wind pop, something I actually just learned recently while filming the playlist is how to pop very fast in light wind and some things that you can do. So I was on a 10 meter in Brazil while filming this, and there was quite a few times where I just didn't really have enough power, and I noticed that a lot of the competitive riders looked like they were powered. They had no problem sometimes riding a kite size or two smaller than me for a guy that might have been the same weight. So I started following them and watching, and I realized what you can do is you can start hopping to break the surface tension on the water and building up a ton of board speed. And it's almost like a rhythm. So it's a 1, 2, unhook, lean back, and scoop your board. And it's a very fast, explosive motion. And what happens is in light wind, you need to do everything more explosive yourself. So rather than relying on the kite to rip you off the water, you need to be more explosive with your scoop and pop, explosive as you throw yourself in the air. Later on, when you try more tricks, you're going to have to rotate faster to initiate things. You can't let things happen fluid and natural. You really have to put a lot of body energy into it. But I recommend once you get experienced and you're feeling really good about your pops, and when you're out there, if you're feeling frustrated, like there's not quite enough wind, don't beat yourself up. Just start practicing this. Start riding downwind and start hopping to get a bunch of speed. And then like on the third or fourth hop, unhook, land into your scoop, and just flick yourself up. And you can flick the kite too. Flicking the kite helps monumentally on this step. And likewise, sometimes you'll be out there and the wind is going to pick up. I mean, let's be real, kiteboarding is nowhere near as consistent as wakeboarding or other sports. So when you're feeling like you have a bit too much power, you can kind of ride down the wind to take some of the power out of the kite. And then when you go to load, don't scoop as hard, don't pop as hard, and then just do a more mild scoop, and you can really control how much power you bring in by the amount of line tension that you're bringing to the kite. So factors like speed and line tension are going to come into play here. So start experimenting and you'll be surprised at how consistent you can get in inconsistent conditions. So that's it for this first video, guys, and don't forget to click the eye icon because I'm going to include more details in the written blog, and as well you can get that free PDF for your phone. And let me know what you think about this new series and some of the things that you would like to learn. So hey guys, I hope you found this video helpful, and if you did, please give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe. And until next time, this has been Rygo.